welcome back to Gen Zen here on Tune Up Tuesday in Ottawa, Canada. So happy to see you all again on a beautiful winter day here in the nation's capital. Gen Zen is an online TV show that moved from a live format in Ottawa to internet, online, worldwide, so that I can reach out more people. Here we're putting the soul back into solutions and talking with some cool people doing cool shit for the shift. One of these cool cats, as you know, many of you already know, Chris Grosso. He actually lived in Ottawa for a tiny little moment of his experience, and now he's back in the States. And he's the indie spiritualist, author, cool cat, doing cool stuff, and author of the new book. Let me see if I get this: Dead Set on Living, making the difficult journey, the difficult but beautiful journey from fucking up to waking up. Did I get that right, Chris?
You did, and I appreciate your use of the actual language.
Gosh, yes. So, dude, as you know, I love talking to people like yourself. Love the tats, earrings. You know, that's my vibe, man. Tell me how the indie spiritualist was conceived. You know, how you're spreading the light, your vibe, your way out in the world, which I love. I love the individuality of it. I love the, you know, the rawness, the sexiness of it. I'm sure people around you have said that to you. Tell me how it all birthed.
Woo, all right. Well,
so
yes. So first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate it. It is nice to connect finally, and it is nice to be reconnected with my old home of Ottawa, which I still have much love for. Right. No, I love Ottawa. I love Canada. It's a gorgeous place. So it is nice to be on your show. Thank you. But in a nutshell, the whole birth of the indie spirituals thing really came from my desire to create a platform where I could present both spiritual things that I was interested in, yet also music, film, any form of independent culture. I had been looking for that, and this is back around 2009, 2010, and I did not find it anywhere. You had spirituality, obviously. You had punk rock, hardcore, hip-hop, whatever, but I did not find a breeding ground that kind of enmeshed all of them. And so, you know, I kept running into people like myself who came up in this underground scene and were looking for more. And I was living in Vernon, Connecticut at the time.
Yeah, nice place, yes.
Yeah. So, well, and so I worked in Middletown, so it's about a 35-minute commute. And one day, just driving down, it hit me like, start your own website, man. Do it yourself. DIY, the punk rock ethics and indie spiritualist just popped in my head. Indie culture, spirituality, and that's like the long short of it. So I started a website and started interviewing spiritual teachers and actors and musicians and all sorts of skateboarders, all different people that had influenced my life in my own attempt to, again, like bring it all together and offer it to people and show that you don't have to compartmentalize spirituality.
Yeah,
right?
That's so. When I grew up, a little older than you, felt the same way, where you had to wear a yoga outfit or to be spiritual. I'm like, no, I'm at a rave. I'm out there. I'm like, it can be anything and everything, and that's the definition of spirituality. So I have been a huge fan of your work, again, since Lily was trying to connect us, because I was interviewing people like Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and those cats.
Sure.
I always wanted to gravitate towards, not the fringe, but, you know, the people doing it a little differently, outside of the package, outside of the formula.
Right.
Because they're the changers. Like, I am wholeheartedly believing that the creative entrepreneur is going to save the world. Like, it's going to be the inventions, the art, you know, the music, the films, as we've seen it. Who is your favorite interview? Because you've had some seriously famous interviews in the past who have some interesting views that may not have been presented in their IBMD bios, you know, that their agents didn't know about.
I mean, yeah, that's a wonderful question, and there are so many come to.
One example, maybe not your favorite. Then give me one that you can remember and share.
The first one that comes to mind, and we'll explain why, is Danny Trejo.
Yes.
Who is a very well-known actor, Hispanic actor or Mexican, known for Machete, known for Heat. I mean, he's been in basically everything. And I had the opportunity to interview him several years ago, and we met up in Worcester, Massachusetts at an Uno Pizzeria. And yeah, of all places, it was right next door to where this big horror convention was being held. And it was great because I love horror movies. I got to also interview George Romero, who did Night of the Living Dead, and just a number of wonderful horror actors. But so we had this like 10 to 15 minute interview scheduled, and we hit it off big time. And we stayed there for like an hour and a half just chatting. But in the beginning, what comes to mind, it's because it is one of the most memorable experiences I've had, is I said to him something to the effect of, well, first of all, of course, thank you for your time. Really appreciate your work. And I know that he's also in recovery like I am and dedicated to helping other people. And so I just mentioned that, I'm probably going to ask you questions that aren't typical that you're usually asked. And he was like, all right, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. And the dinnerware was already on our table. So he grabbed this big steak knife and he kind of points it at me and goes, that's cool, unless I don't like it, something like that, and pointing a knife at me in a stabbing motion. And it's hilarious, but it's also Danny Trejo doing that. So it's like,
lean back.
Right. So, but anyways, we had a blast, and it was an amazing time and a really special memory for me. But that was just, yeah, of course, that's probably usually the first. Whenever anyone asks me that, the first thing that comes to mind.
So what about his spirituality or his work or his passion for life or the world made you like ting ding? Like what was the aha moment in that chat? Other than it was a cool guy.
Sure.
Had some fame and ability in the acting community.
A few things. One of them is that what I really appreciated is I had asked him, because he's been in how many movies, like so many, and he's worked with Pacino and De Niro and all of these incredible famous actors, yet he's still one of the most humble people I know. And I said to him, like, how do you maintain that? And he said, and without talking shit about other people that he's worked with, I will say Lindsay Lohan may or may not have come up, but other, whatever. But he said, I don't keep yes men around me. He named a few of his friends that came up with him in the hood that he keeps around him at all times, and they keep him in check. And if he starts to kind of like get into that ego shit, they knock him down a notch. And I really appreciated that. And then the other thing was that he has this passion for service work, for helping other people. And I remember him saying to me, because he knew of my books or one book at that point, and he's like, I know you've written and you speak to young people too. And he's like, we have this opportunity, you and I, where based solely on our appearance alone, let alone for him, famous actor, for me, just, at that point, I was a relatively unknown author, and I still am, but whatever. But he's like, you walk in somewhere, and especially with younger people, they see your appearance, and you automatically have their attention. And what a gift that is. And I really appreciated that because I do a lot of work with younger people. That's my great passion. And
so where does God, like, again, I'm talking about quantum God. I'm not talking about religion.
Sure.
It's your thing. I'm talking about spirituality, consciousness, higher intelligence, whatever it is for everyone. Do you find that permeates in the interviews and the writing that you do? Like, what role does that play for you? I mean, you can see how kids need help with life, on here in the physical. They're going through addictions or relationships or can't find their place in the world, like, Trump's president, what's going on, like, what, or whatever, depending on what your perspective is. How do you bridge, or is there a bridge for them to think about more, like a little bit more esoteric?
The way I approach it is I try to meet people where they're at. younger, older, wherever, it doesn't matter. In my experience, I don't have any issue with the word God. However, I, of course, understand that is a very loaded word for some people. So, and I've written about this in my books, but anytime I use the word God, I also preface it by saying, if this is offensive to you, please feel free to replace it with whatever works for you, whether it is Christ consciousness, Buddha mind, universal spirit, source, yada, yada, yada. It doesn't matter. There is this thing that is greater than ourselves. And what I love is, and I'll often bring science or physics into this, they agree. Like, they speak in their own language, but there is this quantum soup of energy, so to speak, that is there. It is always there. And in the Vedanta Hindu tradition, the old rishis and sages were talking about this well before science and physics became a thing, but they were talking about this. And then science, came about, and physics and quantum physics. And it's amazing to me to look at how all these different perspectives talk about this higher self, this greater than our own ego limited small s self. So anyways, that's my understanding of it. But when I talk with people, especially the younger generation, who is often cynical and skeptical and jaded, and I can appreciate that because that's how I came up too, especially with very deeply rooted punk rock roots. I say, so where do you find your spirituality? I ask them. I don't tell them where to find it. I ask them. And, it might be art, it might be skateboarding, sports, whatever the case may be. But for me, in my own experience, and that's all I can ever share, and I want to be very clear about that, I never say that this is the path or this is the answer, because it's all subjective. But, for me, my understanding is that, let's say God or spirit with a capital S, it imbues all things at all times. It is in literally everything. It's as much in me as it is in you, as it is in this microphone or this computer. Many of the great wisdom traditions would completely agree with that in their own language. So where do you not find spirituality? Really, if you're open to it, it's everywhere at all times. Where do you not find God? Whatever you care to call it. So I find when I talk to people in that way, talk with them rather than at them, and in a very open way, it becomes a super conducive conversation, and one that I also often learn quite a bit too. I never, ever, ever view myself as a teacher. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I feel weird when people call me a teacher. Like, I'm an experience sharer.
Yeah, so, I'm an explorer. I mean, people do call me. Right. I say I'm an explorer. I used to be actually a youth worker for the city of Ottawa, and not that our city has a lot of heavy energy, but we definitely have lower income and youth and disenfranchised. So I spent my early 20s working really in the hood. Well, again, our version of the hood.
Yeah, I was there and I've seen it. I know it exists.
And their passion, their desire to make changes, or for the basic tenets of, equality or freedom, like, they're all part of the spiritual language. Right. It's, they don't know that because they're reaching from a survival space, and they can't get to the awesomeness of the vista at the top of the tree yet. Right. One of the books I want to, just because, your books are great. And have you ever read Surfing the Himalayas?
Actually, oddly enough, I was sent a copy of that. I have not had a chance yet.
So it speaks, well, first of all, if you've ever skateboarded or surfed, you got to read the book.
Story of my life. Yep. Yeah. Not surfing, but skateboarding. Yeah.
Yeah. And funny enough, I had a very bad snowboarding accident. Forget now, it was the pivot point that got me out of corporate Canada. I was in bed for 4 months straight, really off work, like cast and like drugged up and stuff, in pain, and all I could do was talk to God. It was the thing that took me out of the game of life, to put me, butt up, looking at the ceiling and crying and wanting to end my life because I was in so much pain and horrible experience physically, but spiritually, you know, it blew me up. And started my journey as a professional spiritual teacher for 20 years. So I was on the board, you know, during the
Right.
like the Zen, and then you're not on the board anymore, which is life, right? Life will knock you off the board. And skaters know, surfers know, you can crash and burn hard, right? Like you can actually get seriously hurt.
Yeah.
The point is you get back up, right? So what kind of advice would you have as someone who's lived a very diverse life yourself? You've had positive, negative, you've had commercial success though. This is where I think, you know, I want to share people your story, because yeah, you got the indie vibe, you're slick and cool, but you've also had negative and you've also had the positive. Like you're a published author, you public speak, you kind of live the life that you want right now. You mean you've earned it, right? You got the scars and the badges to prove it. But you're standing, you're here. So what drives you to keep, like, let's use the analogy, stay on the board, get back up?
Good analogy, and a great question. Service.
Right.
I always come back to Maharaji, who is Ram Dass's guru. His teaching to Ram Dass was love, serve, remember. Love everyone, serve everyone, remember God. And again, replacing God with whatever works for you. That's what gets me back up on the board, because I am so far from perfect. You know, I am a utterly fallible human being, and I make that very clear in my books and my talks. And just because you step onto the quote unquote spiritual path, it does not mean life becomes perfect. It does not mean that things are, you know, like going to become rainbows and unicorns.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's, if anything, if you're being really authentic about it and willing to go into that ugliness that many of us carry inside of ourselves, regardless of whether you've been through anything like I have or not, it's not a fun experience in the beginning. You have to sift through a lot of wreckage of your past. There's a lot of shadow material that you need to bring up, reintegrate, reown, reassociate, you know, work through. And then though, that's where it starts to pay off, is when you begin to do that, life then becomes easier to navigate. And there's, you know, a number of means and methods to do that from all of the great wisdom traditions, or outside of that. You know, I will tell people, I don't give a shit if you care about spirituality.
Yeah.
If you like are into skateboarding or hiking or gardening or whatever, it's available everywhere. You know, like you can find it anywhere. So that's, you know, that's what I try to tell people.
Yeah, you can be Zen anywhere, and that is right. And of course, if you do study the wisdom traditions, which we have,
right,
they will tell you enlightenment is you still have to wash the dishes, you know, pick up the dog poop, mow the lawn, like
do the laundry. Yeah.
It's just how you like attend to it. You're more in devotion. You're more in mindfulness. You're more, you know, in presence. And
right.
So it's not so much that the mundane changes, it's how you do the mundane, right? It's how you shift the shit, if you will. Yeah. I love it because, again, I think the world needs more plain speakers. I get a little, while I look more traditional, I speak more current, like life. Like we have to be spiritual living, not in an ashram wearing white and only, you know, twice a month we're holy people. You got to be that, you know, wherever you go, right? Like this is Jesus playing, you know, poker or pool, or Buddha is Buddha. You know, they don't stop being that wherever they travel, or whatever your mythical figures or spiritual leaders, what they are everywhere. Yeah. So how do you stay, what tools do you have to stay sane?
Well, sane.
Get tattoos. I'm like, you probably just go to the parlor and get more ink.
Yeah, well, when I have the money to do that. I laugh when you use the word sane because we can use that very loosely. My girlfriend and I often joke about that because, you know, she's an incredible, beautiful human being and an atheist of all things, but one of the most spiritual people I know, to be honest. Like, she has one of the most compassionate hearts ever. but we laugh and we joke, and we're both we we laugh at each other's insanity because it's part of the human experience.
Yeah.
But I guess, for me, what keeps me in check is the basics. Keep it simple. Like I wake up in the morning and I have, some very basic things I do. It changes day to day depending on what I have going on, how much time, but really simply, like I might smile for 10 seconds. Just start my day off and smile. Yeah, it's super simple, kind of cliche, but whatever.
Yeah.
I do that. I will do a quick reflection on the day prior and see where I may have been unskillful. Do I need to apologize to anyone, including myself? Did I treat myself unskillfully? Then I'll find a couple of things that I'm grateful for, like at least 2 or 3, and it literally could be anything, just, to get that attitude of gratitude. I usually do a 4-4-6 breath, which
is
yeah, very simple, or 4-7-8. Andrew Weil talks about that. There's variations, but again, a grounding breath. And then I'll do the first part of the loving kindness meditation, which I'll do a full loving kindness meditation often, but I like to do the part where for myself, I'll just briefly, I'll put my hands over my heart center, which is totally optional, but I just do that as an extended form of self-care. And I'll say to myself, mentally, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I live with ease.
Yeah.
I might say it once, I might say it 10 times, whatever I feel I need to. And that's it, and that starts my day off on a positive note. And who knows what's going to happen from there. But, again, that 4-4-6.
Yeah, you've centered it. You've centered yourself.
Right, exactly. So I feel like I've done my part to start my day, and life will be what it'll be, but at least I did my part. And then as the day goes on, I'll reincorporate various elements or tenets of those practices or other practices. So, I mean, in all my books, that's the main thing, is like I can write about my experience all day long, which I do, but always adding practices like here's what worked for me. So.
Yeah. So now tell me, new book launching March 6th.
Yeah.
Headset on Living. Love it. Love it. Tell us about what inspires this book and why someone should go out and pre-order it.
Well, this was the greatest labor of love I've ever, had. Each book is, my first 2 books, they were very taxing. Writing a book is not easy.
Yeah.
This book was spawned from the end of my marriage, where I was living in Ottawa. And it was a very, very difficult time and experience for me. And I ended up having an awful relapse because of that. Actually, I shouldn't say because of that. I chose, to pick up, but it was spawned from that. And
triggered.
Right. And I ended up in the hospital. I almost died. I was intubated. I had tubes breathing for me. Oh yeah, it was a really near death. I mean, I've been near death many times, but this was like, the doctors told me if it had been, 5 or more minutes, even if you survived, you might have been brain dead because the lack of oxygen going to my brain. So anyways, that's what sparked really the book. And the book itself is not just about addiction and recovery. It explores, why do we as human beings return to whatever self-defeating behaviors we suffer from that we do.
Right.
And so, of course, I use myself as a case example, but each chapter, so this book differs from other ones in the fact that each chapter I speak with a different individual from a different lineage or, whatever it may be, to get their perspective on the myriad forms of addictions and healing. So chapters with Ram Dass, Gabor Mate, Ken Wilber, Tara Brach, Sharon Salzberg. Love
Tara, by the way. Love Tara.
Oh yeah, she's amazing.
I love them all, but I have my favorites.
Yes, we all do. But yeah, so I chose individuals that have really impacted my life, and so I have these conversations with them. And again, and so we discuss. It's not just about drugs and alcohol; it's about depression and eating and gambling.
Addiction's not just chemical.
No, at all.
Self-sabotage. You could be addicted to the internet. You could be addicted to prostitution yourself and disease to please. Right. You can be addicted to toxic people. You can be addicted to not playing big or playing small. You know, like, so the chemicals, sure, there's a physiological issue you have to get support with, and, you know, that kind of thing. But I find actually sometimes the non-physical addictions are the hardest.
Sure.
It's not pinpointable, except you see it in the crash and burn of your life. You know, you see the missed opportunities.
Well said, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what shamanism does. That's my training. The wisdom traditions go into the 90% of you that's non-physical. You know, find out what, but again, chemicals in this world, we're everywhere, right? Like there's so much stimulus causing us to be more, compete, be thinner, be prettier, be at the top, you know, publish the book. Like, there's really no energy that says just you're okay where you are, right? Like, you're just, wherever you are, you're good. And because we're always wanting more. We're in a more society that I don't just debate because I want us to evolve, but speak to this. What do you feel like? Does society help us accept, right? Like, I just find everywhere you are, it's a competition on some level.
Right. And with social media, you know, that doesn't help either these days.
Right.
You know, it's like, how many likes am I getting on a post, or how many followers do I have? And we're looking outside of ourselves for this confirmation of being. And that's why, at least, and again, I can only speak for myself, but I was reaching outside of myself for something to fill this inner gap. And again, drugs, alcohol, sex, shopping, video games, Netflix, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. And again,
Blinders, that's mine.
There you go. And my girlfriend's, her big thing is, you need to watch Peaky Blinders. But in and of themselves, it's not that there's anything wrong with those things. They are just what they are. But when we begin to use them as a means of escape, and I should also note that spirituality and meditation, yoga, those can be lumped right in the same thing. Exercise, whatever, they might be seen more as a healthy thing. But anytime we're using anything as a means of aversion, that's when it becomes unhealthy. So
I get it. I love it. And I totally am, you know, we're on the same page. And I think that's why our friend Lily wanted us to meet, because it's sorry that I wasn't there. You know, I don't know. I think my sister was sick and dying then. So I'll be honest, I think I was elsewhere too. While you were having your chaos, I was having mine.
Right.
But I'm glad we could reconnect this way. The book, how can people find it, pre-order it, buy it, and where can they find you on the net?
Well, the book is available literally everywhere. Simon & Schuster is publishing it, or Gallery, their imprint, which is a super honor for me. So it's available for pre-order right now on Amazon. I know in Ottawa, Chapters is your guys' equivalent of our Barnes & Nobles. So you can order it there. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it literally indie bookstores, anywhere books are sold. The audiobook version is also available, which is awesome. I'm excited about that.
Website, because I really want people. You have a beautiful website.
Thanks. That I significantly lack on, but or slack on, but the indiespiritualist.com. If you go there, you can find my books. You can find my contact info, events I have coming up. I have a lot of events coming up. None in Canada at the moment.
Well, we're going to have to get you here, because what I'm trying to create as one of the sort of early pioneers of our community, one of many, not the only one, but fresh and current. I don't want the old canned approach. It's not
sure.
And I do want the skaters and the innovators and the tats and the rockers and the punk and the kirtan and the classic, like, because once you understand the flow, it's all the flow.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I really found this out when I went to Burning Man in 2007. As a non-drinking, non-druggy dancer who just was raving with 50,000 people high on Molly.
Wow.
I was sober, you know, and having an amazing time. So it's kind of this energy of creativity, movement of thought, energy out of the body, expression that I think you really represent, that I'd love you to come up and maybe we do a symposium or something, or a talk.
Dig it.
We'll find a cool place to hit up, maybe like I don't know, like Tremblant or something. We'll figure it out.
Cool. I was invited to the Wanderlust Fest up there this year, and I had some conflicting stuff going on. But yes, hit me up after the conversation.
We'll bring your lady. We'll come up. We'll I'll show you the ink shops my friends own.
Nice.
I'll get you a discount.
Very nice.
Last thoughts for people, because I know, I want to respect the time. I mean, I could talk to you like all day. Any thoughts though for people who are feeling disenfranchised, disconnected? I love supporting the arts though. Like that's kind of my passion.
Sure.
Creativity, because I really believe the invention of new thought, new thinking, new ways, new being is only going to be the way that we save this planet. So I want to support them in any way I can.
Yeah.
What do you want to speak? Can you speak to them right now as our closing comment?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Do you, period. Do you. Who cares what anyone else is doing, what it looks like? Again, the word spirituality is just a word. I don't care how you find your own connection to that which is deeper than just your physical being. We all have it. It's in there, our inner wisdom, our inner friend, our inner guide, our higher self. It goes by many names, God, whatever you care to call it. Yeah. It's there. But just do you and find it, whether it's through art or skateboarding or music or meditation or yoga or running or any combination thereof. That's what I advocate for people, is find what works for you. Ram Dass talks about, and I don't know verbatim the quote, but the spiritual journey is highly individualized.
Of course.
So, that's it. Find out what works for you. And yes, explore, read books, visit your libraries, like go to various sanghas or churches or synagogues or whatever, go to shows, go to see bands. Find it wherever you can. Pick up a guitar, play the drums, play the violin, piano. Yeah. Just find it wherever you can find it and roll with that. That's my 2 cents.
And I think if you did grow up in punk rock, and not that I was, but I do know a lot about music, the Sex Pistols were some of the most spiritual,
sure,
evolved guys. Sid Vicious just happened to take it on a overkill, just like Kurt Cobain. Like, they went too far.
Yeah.
Over the edge. But the edge of insanity, right? You have to be out of your own mind. So I think all these, Picasso, like Steve Jobs, all the crazies, had the juice running. And what we need to advocate, I think, and I think you would agree, groundedness. Like,
yes,
responsible, be healthy, be here. Don't always try to escape in whatever way you're doing it.
No, absolutely. And then once you find it, serve.
Yeah,
share it with others. Don't tell them what to do, but lead by example. Just share. Just heal yourself so you can be a better person in the world. That's I love that. That's for me so important. So
I don't know if you were able to see all these wonderful comments, Chris. People have been loving what you're saying, so you're getting a lot of likes here.
Thanks everybody.
O-Town, and so I'm going to have you back to have a pizza. You and
Yay! I dig it.
I won't put a knife on you though.
Well, you can. I mean, that would make it interesting.
I might put a mic in front of you, but maybe not a knife.
I don't know which is scarier, but
me probably the mic. Again, I'm so sorry we never really did connect in real life, but I'm hoping that we'll continue this conversation here on my show, because I just think what you're doing is really necessary for everyone, and for us to not get caught up in image and package. So, people who look different aren't bad, or, come from different cultures or speak different languages. And with the current political structure, I think we really need to reinforce that we need all kinds, to make it happen. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks, dude, from my heart to yours.
Well, thank you for having me on.
For writing and doing and staying alive.
By the skin of my teeth, I'm still here.
Glad the Canadian medical system got you back. Back on the board.
Yes, I'm
so
here.
We'll have to have you up to do some skiing, snowboarding, or what's another board? Skating I can't do, but
No, I ice skate. I never got to go down to the canal when it was frozen, so maybe we can hit that up.
You can do that. You can push me around. The girlfriend and I will be in the thing, and you can push us around.
Okay, I can do that. We'll get some beaver tails. I've heard of those, never had them, but
it's not a real beaver, but yes, it's really good.
Cool.
All right. So if you want to check out Chris Grosso's book, please hit up his website, indiespiritualist.com, or just Google Chris Grosso, Grosso. He's everywhere on the net. And thank you for tuning in, everyone, spending your time with us. You can find me at jenniferclark.ca. Thanks, everyone. Peace out. Love to you. Do you, be an individual, and get a tattoo.
Why not?
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Stay real.